Hey, something a little different today. I have an old friend who sent me a question in my messages. And the more I thought about answering him, the more I realized that the answer was something probably relevant to more people than just him. It's a good question. He's someone I knew from high school, and he's recently come back to the Christian faith. And he's dealing with internet arguments against Christianity, arguments that debunk all sorts of, like, there's a ton of them. There's a ton of arguments. You could spend all your time studying them. And he asked me this. He says, I see things like this all the time. How does one go about checking the validity of such statements? I've only recently returned to church and God, and with all the lies and propaganda out there, I'm not even sure where to begin and where to go and learn. Suggestions. He wants books and sermons and so forth. And so I think this is a really tender question, but it's also an extremely difficult one. It's difficult because, I've been to a lot of school, right? I've been to a Christian college, and I've been to a seminary for 4 years, and I've been to a PhD for several years, and now I've got all this education, and so I'm kind of equipped to filter through the information that I take in to know what's good and what's bad. But I can't download all that information to other people, nor is there like a one-shot place to go to say, oh, you should go to, I don't know, so-and-so ministries.com because they have all the answers, because nobody really has all the answers in that way. And so it's really troublesome to figure out how do we sift through bad information? How do we cut through some of the stuff that's out there? And that's one of the reasons I really appreciate the question. So there's a couple of things to say. One lesson comes from banking. So when a bank wants to identify counterfeit bills, the people who examine them, they don't study counterfeits, they study the real bill, and then they know the real features so closely that they can spot the fakes. And I think the same is true in Christian teaching as well. We focus on the good and on the real and on the wholesome to such a degree that we know what it tastes like, we know its flavor, and we can spot the bad. Just like you know good food from bad food, and you can quickly identify the bad that's off because you've tasted what's good. And so I think that's the first thing. But then what do I send you to that's good? And I'm going to make 4 quick book recommendations. One is a children's book. And I'm going to recommend you go back to the very beginning, to The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, Narnia. And the reason is because it's wholesome and it's good and there's stuff that's right in it. And it feeds your mind and your heart, but it also gives you a taste for what's good. Then you can go on your way through and read the other books. I would start with the original book 1, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And in another video, I'll tell you why you should read all 7 books in the publishing order. But I think this is important. Now, there's a wholesomeness, there's a rightness, there's a goodness, and what you're learning is not so much doctrine as you're learning, you're relearning the flavor of what's wholesome, and you can take that learning and you can apply that flavor to other things. Okay, so that's one place to go. Narnia, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Second book. Also not a book of theology. I'm going to recommend a Christian biography. This is The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. Corrie ten Boom was a Dutch woman, and during World War II, she and her family hid Jews in their house and were caught and then sent to a concentration camp. And this is her true story as a Christian woman going through these things. And I think it's important to get a flavor for what's it like to live the Christian. I mean, the internet people, they live in an imaginary world. This is the real world. This stuff really happened. And it's worth examining and worth getting in to see, like, what's it like. It's not a very long book. It's quite lovely. Okay, The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom. Another book of imaginative work that's got deep, deep wholesomeness is, if you can find it, a book by George MacDonald called The Wise Woman. George MacDonald was a Scottish author and fantasist. He wrote fairy stories and novels. This is some of the fairy stories that he wrote, and he deeply influenced both Lewis and Tolkien. So Lord of the Rings, there's not direct connections, but in terms of the imaginative world, this is MacDonald is one of the figures influencing for this kind of thing. This is one of the most powerful stories. It gives you a deep sense of good and evil and right and wrong. And again, what you're training that heart, that imagination, that sense of inwardness that then you can bring to bear on how you have to think through things. Now, I'm only going to recommend one book of the stuff about defending Christianity is a subdiscipline called apologetics. I don't have any one apologetics book that I'd recommend in terms of like fact for fact, answer for answer. I'm more concerned about the heart and how the heart responds to these things, and about the heart being formed with a love for what's good and wholesome. And so I will recommend another Lewis book, this one more intense. This is his book, Mere Christianity. This is where he's going to go through a series of arguments for why Christianity is true, but he's dealing with the logic of Christianity and with the reasons why we believe and what it means to believe and have faith. It's an excellent book. Sometimes maybe our reading style is a bit He might be challenging these days. I'm used to it, so it doesn't bother me, but you might find it challenging. Okay, so those 4 books, I recommend you kick off with Narnia, and then you find Corey ten Boom. And then if you can find George MacDonald, Wise Woman is delightful, only 100 pages, that story. And then Mere Christianity is going to give you some of the thinking that gets you into these things. Now, there's more to say. I can pass you some theology. I can help you with more things. But these are the places where I think your question was asking about how do I answer in my mind? And I am saying, let's build up the heart. Let's build up the heart and have that right spirit of Christian imagination that then we bring with us into our life with God. Okay, hope that helps. If any of you have questions you'd like me to address, send me a message and I'm happy to bring them up.